Hello YouTube, Bane666 here. So I'm recording this on the 25th of April, but I'm pretty sure I won't be able to publish it until sometime in May. The reason for that is because I have quite a few videos to finish and upload before I upload this one, but I'm sure by then there will be even more mass shootings and cop shootings in America. It seems to be a pretty common occurrence. But like I said, I'm recording this Sunday the 25th of April, which is about a week after there was a shooting in Austin, Texas. Now the reason I bring up this particular shooting is because people automatically jump to the conclusion that it was another white guy. It must be because of white supremacy that this guy went out and shot people. Because all mass shootings are by white guys, right? At least that's the stereotype that the media likes to create. In the last few years, it's really been pushing hard the all mass shooters are white guys and the link to white supremacy. But I have to ask the question, is that true? Because that case a week ago, well, it turns out it wasn't a white guy at all. So in this video and part 2, which will be uploaded in the near future, I'm going to look at mass shootings and see if the stereotype of it just being those evil white males and the link to white supremacy is actually true or not. So let's start with the number of mass shootings in the United States between 1982 and April 2021. Now, I'm getting this information from Statistica. I'm not sure what classification they're using for mass shooters. It does vary depending on who you ask and how they sort through their data. Some class it as 3 or more, some class it as 4 or more, some include injuries. So I'm not exactly sure what criteria they're using. So their statistics show us that there were 66 whites who committed mass shootings between 1982 and 2021, 21 blacks, 10 Latinos, 8 Asians, 5 other, 3 Native Americans, and 10 unknown. So I guess that's case closed, right? Most mass shooters are white. There's one problem with that conclusion though, isn't there? And that is that the majority of people in America are white. So it would be logical to conclude that if the majority of the population of a particular country is white, then the majority of mass shooters in that country are going to be white. Just like the majority of mass shooters in India would be Indian, or the majority of mass shooters in Japan would be Asian. That would be logical, right? So to determine which race in America is more likely to be a mass shooter, we need to compare the percentage of mass shooters by race to the percentage of the population by race, and then see which particular figures stand out most. So let's do that. And just for simplicity, I'm combining other and Native American into one. The two data sets I'm using aren't going to be perfectly comparable because one is between 1982 and 2021 and the other is from 2019. So obviously the population of America hasn't remained exactly the same between 82 and 2021, but it should give us a good idea. So let's start with whites. Alright, so whites make up 60.1% of the population, but make up 53.6% of mass shootings. So there are less mass shooters per percentage of whites in the population. Now when we go to blacks, they make up 12.2% of the population, but 17% of mass shooters. So there are more mass shooters than the population of blacks in America. When we get to Latinos, they make up 18.5% of the population, but only 8.1% of mass shooters. So they're less than half. Asians are 5.6% of the population, but make up 6.5% of mass shooters. Other is 3.6% of the population, but make up 6.5% of mass shooters. And obviously for unknown, we don't have a population count because they're unknown, but we do have that 8.1% of mass shooters, which we have to put in the unknown category to reach 100%. So let's look at that data in another graph, and this time it shows us very clearly the least likely to the most likely by race to commit mass shootings. So according to this data, The race which is least likely to commit mass shootings are Latinos, followed by whites, which really hurts the media's narrative, doesn't it? Next is Asians, then other, and finally the race which is most likely to do mass shootings are blacks or African Americans. Now, I should point out, I don't want this to be a condemnation of African Americans, because the number of African Americans committing mass shootings is exceptionally small compared to the population of African Americans. So we shouldn't condemn an entire race based on the actions of a small percentage. But the exact same argument can be made for whites. Just because some whites commit mass shooting doesn't mean all whites are bad, which is the narrative we've been getting in the media, that it's somehow a white problem.
But there is one more thing that U.S. mass shooters have in common. They're white. 50 of the 90 mass shooters since 1987 have been white. That's 55%, which is intriguing because the U.S. Census says 77% of the nation is white, and white men specifically make up about 31% of the population. So why are they so overrepresented in mass shootings?
Having said that, I do think it's important to look at the facts, regardless of where it may take us. And in fact, that's what I'm going to be doing in part 2. I'm going to be looking at the shootings, the mass shootings this year, and I think I'll class mass shootings as 3 or more victims. I'm going to go down the list and I'm going to see who has done more mass shootings. Who has done more mass shootings this year? Is it whites or is it blacks? Now, I haven't done this yet. I haven't gone through the list, I haven't looked, so I don't know which one is going to come out on top. It could be whites because there are more whites in America. It could be blacks because blacks are more likely to do mass shootings. I don't know. I'm going to just record it and see what happens and see what I find. And then I'm going to do a third video in this series in which I look at homicides in America using FBI statistics.
Well, it all goes back to that cowboy.
So when we think about gun culture in America and its origins, they're profoundly located in this sense of white America, and America as a white nation. Men who have, from the day that this country was founded as an American nation, have had full freedoms and liberty to act as they would like to act.
She says the definition of manhood in the United States is directly tied to heterosexual white male masculinity.
White men historically in this country have felt entitled to certain ways of being, and they've seen the world change, and as a result they feel defensive, that they need to take up guns, take up arms, and defend themselves against changes in America.
Ein Haufen Zombies uns herum. Und die Nächte werden länger. Für kurz 2 Tage noch Munition. Danach dann nur noch unsere Hände. Woher sie kommen, wohin sie gehen. Darüber denken wir nicht nach. Ein neuer Anfang, ein altes Problem. Wer schickt hier wen